To be given the opportunity to introduce Yang Berbahagia Tan Sri Rafidah Aziz. I would like to take a different approach in this introduction by sharing with all of you what made her the person she is today. Tan Sri Rafidah Aziz is no stranger to us Malaysians. She is someone who doesn't believe in holding back the punches. No fawning. She tells it like it is. Her bold and resilient ways inspire us to be fearless and upstanding, and many look up to her as someone they can get behind. Tan Sri Rafidah attended secondary education at Convent Bukit Nanas and Form 6 at Victoria Institution, and her tertiary education at University of Malaya, a CBNer, Victorian, and graduate. While serving in University of Malaya, she was instrumental in the development of the cooperative movement with Yang Mulia, Royal Professor Unku Aziz, then Vice Chancellor and later the founding president of the National Cooperative Movement Malaysia, or ANKASA. Tan Sri was elected as Vice President of ANKASA from 1971 to 79. She was an advocate of socio-economic development and viewed cooperatives as a means to support the nation's social economic growth during the critical periods of 1970s. Tan Sri never intended to join politics. She was invited to come into politics by the late Tun Fatimah Hashim, Wanita UMNO head in the 1970s, who without telling her co-opted Tan Sri Rafidah into the Wanita UMNO Economic Bureau. As they say, the rest was history. One fundamental quote that she has mentioned directly and indirectly over the years, and it is imperative for Malaysians as global citizens must adhere, and which I personally hold on dearly to, especially in this current time. Quote, a person must be driven by qualities such as integrity and trustworthiness, discipline, a high sense of responsibility and accountability. They must also have vision to bring about the change for improvement and to successfully overcome challenges. A leader is not the person, man or woman, who is merely in charge. A leader is the one who takes charge, who performs credibly and delivers. Leadership is about performing creditably to the highest possible benchmarks and delivering what's expected. End quote. Tan Sri Rafidah has seen through many economic downturns during her tenure in the government since the 1980s. The commodities shock in 1985-86, the Asian financial crisis in 1997-98, the 2002 dot-com bubble burst, and the global financial crisis 2008 and 9. This was followed by the crash of oil prices after 2014 and 15, and the global pandemic COVID-19 economic crisis. By the way, she is currently leading the worst hit industry, that is the aviation sector. We have seen these economic downturns in the past, especially the impact of economic contagions which are triggered regionally or in the major economies and have various degrees of contagion effects. The audience and I are excited to hear the exchanges of thoughts and no-holds-barred opinions and recommendations that will be shared by you today, Tan Sri. And now, I am pleased to hand over the floor for the remarks of Tan Sri Rafidah Aziz. Tan Sri, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Yeah. Must remember I was a lecturer. Handling mics, first thing you have to do. Well, thank you very much to all of you for inviting me here, especially the management committee. And Rizal for that very, very, very long introduction. I did just say I was ex-minister, period. Now you went on, I got to correct you. I lived through one more crisis. That was in 1974, maybe before you're born. That was the time we had stagflation. First time we ever heard the word stagflation. And I was still in the university then, I was already a senator. And then inflation was double digit. And that was the first time people in the country heard the word inflasi. You know, so Rizal, itulah when you do introduce, I better go back as far as possible lah. Anyway, thank you so much for that. He should be calling me auntie, but never mind. In a formal occasion, tak boleh panggil auntie lah. His mother and I were classmates, primary, university and school. So. Anyway, your topic is maintaining strategic interest in critical value chains. I would just like to touch upon that from my perspective. and later on to see how I view it. Maybe make some proposals as mentioned just now. First of all, it's important for everybody who is in business, who's governing the country, to have a comprehensive profile of the relevant value chains in which Malaysian and Malaysian based entities have become integral parts of those chains. So, I mean, value chains where we are really not in, maybe we push it aside. Where we find Malaysian and Malaysian based companies are there. That's when we should focus as a priority now, whether it is domestically, regionally, or globally. And look at their positions in the 5 primary activities in any value chain, which of course are logistics, or the inbound or outbound, operations, marketing, sales, and services. And not to forget the support services, the support activities that serve to prop up or to strengthen the primary activities I mentioned just now. And these include human resource development, technological development, the company infrastructure itself. It may not be lean and mean, it may be bloated like our government, 70 plus ministers and what have you, more advisors than advice. And then procurement of whatever it is you needed to source. Now, all these support activities, as you know, can contribute towards the cost effectiveness of the basic or primary activities, and therefore contribute also to competitiveness. So you must look at it in totality. And understanding that profile of the value chain in which Malaysian and Malaysian-based companies, when I say Malaysian-based, it means foreign companies based here. Don't have this katak bawah tempurung attitude. Malaysian companies, the Melayu companies, Bumi companies. That's not what I meant. Malaysian companies, okay, owned by Malaysians regardless of race, creed, and religion. Malaysian-based, it can be owned by anything, but licensed by us, given the authority by the Malaysian government. So, understanding the profile of the value chain is important in order for us to evaluate the relevance of a company's role in that value chain, and also to determine the extent of competition that that company faces along the value chain, and to enable the companies to continually plan to diversify products with the intermediate items, and to identify sources of those products, and also diversify markets and customers. So it's not just being entrenched there, but it's evolving, looking into as the positions the value chain, and of course to institute the necessary and necessary and important innovation, especially those related to ICT functions, which can ensure the competitiveness of those entities in the value chain. So today, there must be that constant reference to what everybody globally now calls the new normal in the operating environment. I'm not going to into that new normal. I think you must be sick and tired of it already. But we must understand, as far as value chains are concerned, what and the operating environment in the new normal entails. That's what we need to understand. And what transformation and new developments have been adopted by other people, by other entities along the value chain. It is about being able to assist our companies to integrate quickly and seamlessly with the other entities along the value chain, regardless of disruption. So this is not easy, but the aim objective is that. Today, we have external developments, as you know, that have caused disruptions and dislocations among global value chains. Just one liner, I don't want to repeat ad nauseum. There was a COVID pandemic, and now the ongoing conflict in Eastern Europe. I'm not going to talk about Ukraine and Russia, that's political. I just say conflicts in Eastern Europe. You know what I'm talking about. For example, ongoing basis every day, we say primary producers at their level along the food industry value chain are facing problems. Planting, getting fertilizers, not let alone harvesting, not even the planting, getting the wheat out, and wheat is global demand, including us. Tepung, we cannot make tepung out of just beras. We need tepung gandum. So there are difficulties at a primary production level, at primary products level, difficulty in getting workers, difficulty in harvesting, inability to move products into the market. So in essence, the difficulties along every level of the value chain. So clearly, the physical logistic disruptions have widened now everywhere, the difference or the chasm between supply and demand of essential goods and products, especially food and so on. And then there are also the intermediaries along the value chain. They have become helpless because of the disruptions. These are intermediaries who support people, parts, components, and so on. And today we hear about the automotive industry in Malaysia, everywhere, facing problems because of the shortage of chips. We had chips makers, they moved out. Yeah, not that we didn't. I spent so much time persuading them to come in. My goodness. Literally putting on my sweetest smile. Of course, smiles won't do lah, but you have to explain what we have. They believed us. They operated for decades. Now they're gone. They're chipping everywhere, not except in Malaysia. It's very sad for me, who have to see this. Maybe it's more sad than most of you are, but with someone who saw, holding by the hand holding literally come, showing them where your plant can be set up and so on, literally hand holding exercise by my staff, by the government, so to speak, the teams in the government, tend to see them say bye-bye to us because they're no longer happy. So they're no longer there as suppliers of intermediaries that could have be a stopgap in that dislocation in the supply chain for automotive industry, okay, and other related industries that require chips like that. And of course, the worst affected are those uh, along the value chain that spans across the globe. Kalau just between two countries, not too bad. But when you are east and west, that's when we see the worst affected. So at this juncture, it is important for us to be aware that there are actually two vital components when you talk about any value chain, which actually working together contribute to the efficiency of the performance of those in the relevant value chains. The first one, never forget that, is the physical component, which is exemplified by the hard logistics. I call it hard logistics because some young people talk about logistics, IT, generated by computer. I'm talking about lorries and lorry drivers, truckers, they don't know anything about computer, but all they know is that can I go, can I have my load here being loaded, and then can I go and offload them wherever it is. So that is the physical component of the hard logistics and other elements relating to physical delivery. Never forget that in our euphoria talking about ICT, blah, blah, blah. First component, yeah, physical. Then the second component is the drivers, what I call it as the drivers of the processes in the value chain, which means that for all the transactions, whether physical or non-physical along the value chain, these drivers are in the entire spectrum of ICT, the various platforms that people have created, and whatever it is that ICT can afford to enhance performance and enhance transactions, the physical transactions along the value chain. Tracking of trucks, for example, they don't just drive as they like, to make sure they're on time delivery, things like that, aided by computer. Still, you need a truck driver to be honest and with integrity. So, when you talk about ICT, then the question of security, cybersecurity comes in. I notice that in your talks, there is one element that's been focused upon here. I agree totally because, for example, in our area, in the airlines industry, which Rizal alluded to, cybersecurity is so important to us. There are people who use bots to make bookings, by tranches and then resell, and then finally we all get into a mess because somewhere along the line there'll be dislocations, so we are blamed because we didn't sell those tickets. So they come in, they hack, so we need firewalls, we even need a special risk management committee which I chair, and we need a special division totally to deal with this kind of cybersecurity, which affects the industry from A to Z, literally. And this is no small matter. So I guess when you talk about the logistics along the value chain and any other spheres of activity, cybersecurity is indeed very important to be addressed. And therefore, these risks and concerns must be part and parcel of discussion. Now, these two interrelated problems that I mentioned just now, the physical aspects and the processes that are driven by ICT, they require addressing, they require management, they require effort to resolve. And I want to list out some of the things that can be done. First, understand the issues. No point talking to people who don't understand the issues. You go around in circles and nothing happens, all right? You dislocate your mouth talking to them. I'm sorry. You tell me I'm, what I am, so I'm speaking like that lah. You can have a 3-hour meeting and you still square one. Talk in Malay, dia kata. Okay. Apa you cakap value chain ni? Rantai apa ni? Kan? So, I become very cynical. I'm 79, soon. So I got no time for niceties. At 59, 49, yes, I can. But at 79, going on 80, I think too much hassle for me. Right? So I say it as it is, so bear with me. You invited me. So, understand the issues. If you don't understand, forget about any effort. And to do that understanding of the issues, there must be joint effort. I believe so much in this joint effort between the government and the private sector. You cannot do it alone. Do not allow the government to do it alone. And don't you dare try to do it alone because you'll never get much out of it. With all the effort you put in, then there'll be some stumbling blocks because people don't understand what you're trying to do, right? Some bumi putra interest going to be affected. That's the best excuse to use today. No, serious. Although there's nobody being affected. In fact, the guy who's having the problem is a bumi himself. What matters? Why does that matter? So, when you have joint effort between government and private sector, then you can identify the problems, analyze the impact of each and every problem, and think through together the approaches. I'm just recalling how we did it the last time. I was in government for 30 over years. Right? Not Mahathir's government, way back. I've seen all these prime ministers. And that's how we did it. With all seriousness, we realized that we are not at all knowledgeable about everything. We get the civil servants who know better than us to come in. We know the private sector who know actually what the operations are, they come in. And then together we have the inputs. And I don't recall once where we put in or injected the word politics. Never. I've never recalled, and I'm not yet forgetful, at any meeting where the chairman says, how does it affect us politically? Never. Because our credo was, if you do what is right, politically is acceptable. Correct. It's an automatic reaction of people. If it's the right thing to do, it is politically right. Only idiots and morons don't accept it. And we discount them because the majority are not. So, the joint effort must be mounted to resolve these value chain issues at both internal value chain processes and regional and global. Must remember, value chains are not just the domestic. Even sometimes domestic is worse than regional. Do you realize? To get from Penang to Johor Bahru, you know how much hassle? Okay, state government, district government, blah blah blah, blah blah blah. Somebody looks at the dress of your chief of logistics who is slightly shorter than her knee and doesn't want to deal with her, like Taliban style. I mean, these are things that are injected into serious matters that deflect attention from needs to be done during times of problems like this. That's all I can say as far as the externalities are concerned. So, mounted to resolve the value chain at all levels, domestic, regional, and international or global. And then that also includes the cybersecurity issues which affect business, not cyber. You see, when I talk cybersecurity, please don't talk about smuggling or what. I mean, things that are not really related to business. Smuggling related to business, yes. But I'm talking about, don't take cybersecurity in its totality. Focus on what it is related directly or indirectly to business and operations, right? Where people steal your formula, people steal your information to get into the market and so on and so forth. So that's very important. And then draw up, if it's not yet there, relevant laws to combat those cyber security issues. I'm not sure if there are at all. I haven't seen any. So let's think about it seriously. That can be applicable to all businesses across the board, and yet in some areas focus on some parts or some sectors of the value chain. Then there need to be intergovernmental collaboration at both regional and global levels. And for heaven's sake, don't talk Malay doing this. You never get anywhere. If you insist on Bahasa Malaysia being on the agenda, talking about intergovernmental security risk, are dead. Right? In fact, the Bahasa itself going to be security risk. See, because you're so quiet, I want to lighten up the mood. I don't know whether you're scared of me because I'm going to explode or something. No, I don't explode. In my normal conversation. So when you talk about intergovernmental collaboration, I'm talking about there are existing agreements at regional level, at plurilateral level, even at international level, that can be expanded in its scope and mandate to include new issues that has relevance to dislocations of the global supply chain, including cyber security risk on business and trade. Now, we did that when I was a minister in APEC. So we came up with a STAR initiative, the security on these containers, but very focused on containers, or we call it STAR initiative. So it's implemented at ports and so on globally. But beyond that, because those days, we did that, we didn't have this kind of, things, the ICT platforms that you have now. I'm talking about 30 years ago, okay? So when we have this facility to amend existing agreements, add on to existing regional, international, and plurilateral agreements to include cybersecurity risk and include elements that relate to the global value chain in context of disruptions and so on, then there is some comfort for the global business community when things happen. Now, for example, the cybersecurity gives you comfort that overall we're working together, and then there is the possibility of monitoring such that you have an early warning system when things are about to be triggered to cause dislocations and disruptions in value chains. So the monitoring system is most important. Like today you just got just like that, and tomorrow is done. So there must be at a global level, regional level, and then you have the kind of effort to ameliorate any possible dislocations and disruptions. In other words, it's a process of continuous monitoring and adding on to how you can actually overcome these challenges of global chain disruptions, which is not being done now. Unfortunately, it's not being done. Either domestic, regional, and nobody's talking about global chain. Nothing. In fact, that is a key to our problems now. The infant formula shortage in the US doesn't look like a big deal, but for heaven's sake, it is a big deal. It's about lives. People can wait months for cars, right? Because the chips are not there. But babies who are very allergic to certain contents of cow's milk or whatever milk that is animal cannot consume anything but those specialized milk, and they're not available. Their lives are hanging by a thread, literally. So that then you multiply that across the board to other things of same urgency. So when you work across borders, intergovernmental, then there is more chance of resolution, greater understanding of how we help each other to make sure that that there is no shrinking of supply, deliberate or otherwise. And then the cross-border collaboration also to ensure facilitation of movement so that there's no blockages. Now there's a blockage of wheat by Russia on Ukraine wheat, which is the biggest producer and supplier of wheat globally. The blockade is a man-made blockade. Now, if you work internationally, then you can have these blockages removed or not instituted. with penalties and so. I mean, this has to do in the it to be in the realm of politics plus international relations, and then identify early the constraints in physical movements of goods and products and ease them quickly. Can prioritize even at conferences, not conferences where you speak and get translation. I'm talking about sit down conferences where you actually bash brains, right? And you prioritize what are the products, what are the goods must be given priority facilitation. I'm introducing this word, the new phrase, priority facilitation. You can afford not to deliver cars, as I've told you. They won't die not having cars. But if it's food items, emergency medical items, it doesn't matter what your philosophy is, your political alignment is, internationally is understood that merits facilitation. That is not to be constrained. Special facilitation. It's not being done yet. I don't know why they're not doing this. Maybe they're too busy doing other things. So why not this come out from a forum like this and make it known and then get your counterparts outside of Malaysia to also think alike. So then you actually ease the clogging of the physical clogging of the value chains for essential goods. And then up to you then to determine what are the essential goods. I've given you some idea. And then the priority facilitation one. And then safe passage status. If you know that tanker is carrying essential food, please let it go. Don't have any karenah, bahasa Melayu lah kan, karenah, any nonsense. Where the fellow have to sign 1,000 pieces of this and I don't know what else, where the process alone takes 10 days and as a result somebody dies. Many people die because cannot get whatever it was that's being shipped. So I call just now priority facilitation and safe passage, cross-border for essential items, which then supersede the normal physical value chain activity. It has to override. If you go by a lot of normal one, then people die. So who is going to do this? Governments moved by the private sector. It can be done. And I hope it can be done while I'm still alive. And then, of course, when you work together within the government and private sector, you can identify the various positions that the business entities operating in this country lie within the value chain. Are they very important? The value chain is critical, but is the business entity, the company, critical or not? When there are 20 others supplying, can't be very critical, right? You got 22 competitors there. But if you are the one of two globally, wow, you are the critical component in a critical value chain. See, critical component is one thing, critical value chain another. Just now I talked about the value chain. Now I talk about the critical elements and entities in the value chain. That one is a domestic thing where government must come and discuss how we help these critical components and entities in the value chain so that they don't get out-competed by others because the government was slow coming on board to assist them. You may have all the IT people, no? But when some rules prohibit you from doing certain things or constrain you from doing certain things, which is good for you and good for the industry, nothing happens, correct? Let's be realistic about life. Okay, so we need then to analyze how firm the status of our entities are along the value chain. Don't just be there. How strong are they? Can just be flicked out by somebody who comes in 2 minutes? Are they long stayers? Have they got a firm foothold in the value chain? This is what you and the government must address so that Malaysian and Malaysian-based companies can be entrenched there. And then they see this in a very long term when they look at their position in the critical value chain. And then, of course, when you understand that scenario, then there'll be options that you can choose. Again, these options can be worked together between the government and yourselves or among yourselves in the business sector. For example, do you feel that you should establish operational joint ventures within the market itself? Rather than having joint venture here and lock the whole thing out, Go there, because that's where your market is. Go there and have joint ventures. It's not being disloyal to the country. It's doing your service to the country, right? Rather than people kill you where you are, you survive there and you remit money and so on, and create a name for Malaysia. And then, of course, you can set up operating entities in markets which are more vulnerable to value chain disruptions. So if you are there, disruptions will not happen because you're there. But if you're outside and they are quite vulnerable because of landlocked or because they are surrounded by sea, things like that. So these are options open to you. And you can have joint ventures or do it on your own. And the opposite also works. Foreigners also think alike and they might want to come and look for regional hubs. They may want to operate in situ rather than ship out from faraway place to Malaysia, to Thailand, all that. They want to be in the region so that there be minimum constraints to the global physical global chain, in the value chain, meaning delivery, physical delivery. Right? You can operate on a computer, but you still have to deliver the goods. But if you are there within the region now, within the region, of course, being Malaysian, I would like to see Malaysia being chosen as the hub. That's what I've been working for the last decades. And in order to do that, to make Malaysia the regional hub, to be attracted to come to Malaysia, to operate here, to serve the region with the minimum supply chain constraints, because we are all very connected in ASEAN plus plus, right? We are very lucky actually. The connectivity is such that physical, it is not really detrimental to us. Why? Because the constraints of the physical delivery very minimal. You realize, unless you're crossing some sea somewhere, but if it is contiguous countries within ASEAN plus 6, which is our bigger neighbors, there is that geographical contiguity that allows minimum disruptions of actual physical delivery along the value chain. So people should be attracted to come to Malaysia to use us as our hub, their hubs. But I would say there are caveats. And I'm no lawyer, but I use the caveat in that way. There are certain conditions. One, Malaysia must have the requisite pull factors to attract them, not introduce push factors that say goodbye. Go to hell with you. Now we are creating push factors every day. I'm sorry to have to say this. If you care to read what's happening around you, if I were a foreigner, I'd say, oh my God, is there no end to this pushing out of people who want to do here, work here, do good here? So pull factors must be there. You must have a stable operating environment, not changes of policies as a whim and fancy. Predictable investor policy, positive policy. Of course, people say investor friendly. I like investor friendly, patting your back. That's not it. Investor positive is what it means. You know what I mean? Good for the investor. They know they can make money out of basing themselves in Malaysia. Not inward looking and narrow politically motivated policies. I have to say this because sometimes I notice new policies are enunciated that has no relevance to making people compete well in the marketplace. It's only related to some political considerations. So cannot. The people are more discerning now, foreigners. They can see what we're aiming for. We cannot cover it up anymore. Ini politik lah ni. Let me talk Malay. Politik, bukan economics. I see. So let's not have that kind of environment in Malaysia. And we must have the public sector that serves to facilitate business endeavor, facilitate investment and reinvestment, encourage diversification and upgrading of process and technology, not have conditions imposed. For example, I was so I don't know what to do. Word upset is a little bit too soft. When the High Commissioner for New Zealand came to see me, he was desperate, obviously, where a Malaysian company wanted to sell some of the shares to to a foreigner. with the idea that the more contacts you have, New Zealand and a halal product to boot. You know, what I mean, you saw from New Zealand, right? Halal product certification authenticated, and the company wants to sell to some non Malays. And you know who stopped them? Jakim. I didn't know that Jakim has a say in licensing. I'm still alive, and I didn't know they changed the policy. So I told High Commission, it's new to me. And I went through meeting, blah, 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 but they prevailed. So cannot sell. Selling a company makes it haram. What the hell are they talking about? You have non-Malays making all kinds of halal products, right? It's not who owns the company. It's the processes that should be Sharia compliant. You don't have to circumcise the guy. See, that's how irritated I am. No. You understand what I'm trying to say? The ownership is important. Must be halal people. Don't sell to non-Muslim. We're not talking about the ownership. We're talking about what is produced. We have so many non-Muslims producing Sharia compliant cosmetic products, food products, and what have you. Not selling to Malaysia alone, selling everywhere in the world, to Arab countries as well, and who accept it as authentic. And here, you can't even sell your shares in order to grow. Why? Because he is not Muslim. It's a first. I thought I would never live to see such a thing. It is. It's happening. And what do I do? Scream around? You all should take all this up, Okay, I was shocked when I thought it couldn't be true. I got meaty, my former staff. They checked, it was true. So they did it along the. Jakim said no, cannot. So that's a ridiculous. You even now have to nominate people along the value chain. Muslim, certified Muslim, show your circumcision certificate, like that. Sorry, I sound very crude, but I want to tell you, when I go to that level, it means I'm very angry. I don't rant around and scream. No, that's not my style. I just use choice words. And that says a few thousand words, correct, in explanation. Okay, now you can use that as part of your explanation to your friends. And also, we need a government that understands what success operating in the relevant value chains entail. I don't think they understand. Not at all. At all, at all. During the COVID, I have people who fabricate products here to sell to Singapore under contract, right? For those big structures, because Singapore don't have that much. Ours, very global people. They're not very showy, but they are very global. The big global companies are here. So they fabricate the structures for high-rise Singapore under contract. And when the COVID came, they don't have many people actually. They're only automated, and they're able to actually have everybody vaccinated, everybody tested every day, because the numbers are not that big, and they can afford to have this vaccination and testing every day even. No, close your production. Then the Singapore people said, unless you supply, we terminate your contract. And these are not your 20,000 little chungkiang contract, These are triple digit millions. I'm no longer minister, but I try my best and work wherever I know, because I do know people, right? Old enough, some of them my students, because some of my students are dungus, so don't talk about it lah. Oh, some my ministers, some prime minister were my ex-student. Mayudin, my ex-student. Not proud of it, but Anwar Ibrahim, my student. Okay, and a few others lah. No need to mention, spoil my day. But suffice to say, when you have people who think like that, close down, not realizing these value chain reactions. Singapore wants that construction finished on time because they have obligations to customer, obligations to open business, blah, 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 blah. No, COVID. But these are not your run-of-the-mill little workshop, But they did lah finally, but time was lost lah. Which meant that people are looking at us like, what these crazy idiots are doing? Bahasa apa bodoh sangat ni? Macam itulah. The Singaporeans can speak Malay, you know. So, I know firsthand. You can people come to me, anti-agony, you see. I am retired, but people come to me with all kinds of problems. That's how I know. I don't look at WhatsApp and all that. No. These are real life problems. Where I couldn't believe, incredulous. How could any government department, how little government somewhere can actually dislocate a whole value chain activity? So beware. That's why the collaboration is so important. And then, why is it that they're implementing measures and policies that are not consistent with the imperatives of the ever-changing environment? That I cannot understand. And whether the environment is domestic, regional, or global. Please have the global view of things. Then you understand what needs to be changed, what needs to be improved. Not your little constituency view lah. You know, parade. Well, if I look at Kuala Kangsar, I won't be speaking like this. Right? I only think of the value chain Bekor, Ulu Bekor and Bukit Cermin lah. See? So you have to widen your. So in short, what we need is, you know that I'm coming to the end already. In short, government in its entirety, which means the bureaucracy, the administration, must be continuously attuned and fine-tuned at that to the new developments in the marketplace. It must be up to date in its awareness of knowledge and understanding of the nature of global competition. And understanding and having the capacity. Understand pun tak guna je. Have the capacity, right? I faham, but tak boleh buat. I know you need kids, but I cannot lah. See, you're very slow, you all. Are you bored? I just made a joke. I say, I know we need kids, but I cannot. Don't have the capacity, right? Okay. They don't understand still. She's laughing. I think we may understand better lah. So they must have the capacity to preempt the new developments and find solutions to new issues because things are evolving so fast. What was yesterday, tomorrow is already no longer there. It's obsolete, right? It doesn't take a decade. It doesn't take a decade. It just takes 24 hours. And most importantly, I beg of everybody in the government to have clear regional and global vision and not that dangerous and counterproductive cocoon mindset and approaches. Okay, at least for the butterfly and the caterpillar goes to cocoon, become pupa, out comes the butterfly. Ya, ini cocoon jadi cacing, jadi ulat. It's wrong to use the word cocoon, but I cannot think of anymore lah. Malay apa cocoon? Tak ada kan? Kepompong is butterfly cocoon. If anybody goes to cocoon like a butterfly, out comes this beautiful thing later on. I'm talking about cocoon in this self-wound, inextricable, tempurung. No, this one, you wind all this inextricable wire and thread and rubbish around you sampai tak boleh nak keluar lah. That's what I mean by cocoon in that context. Cocoon dah. Macam tu. Alright? You cannot even take yourself out because you're so much covered by you know what lah. That begins with S and so on. So, ladies and gentlemen, the topic is very serious, but you must remember, equally serious should be those who are in a position to address it and to make those changes necessary. No point having conferences, 20 of these, if the people who are supposed to address those things don't listen, don't even understand what you're talking about. I had a prime minister those days overseas, you know, we had made speeches for him kan, value chain kan. Suddenly at the dialogue, they cakap value change. We squirmed in our seats. And at the bilateral, you know, the value change. Because that was the only two words they remember. Tapi dia tak faham chain dengan change. So we squirm, takkan I nak correct dia kan, duduk sebelah dia. Takkan ada foreign minister nak correct pula. We have to be like, swallow our our frustration literally lah. Take drink kan, sip lah. Habis cerita lah. Value change. We're not talking about changing values. We're talking about the value chain in the production process and the marketing and selling, right? Tak ada. You see, where concepts are not understood, how do you make policies? And that's the Prime Minister, Ayo. I can still remember sitting there squirming. I said, oh God, help me. Let this meeting be fast. Otherwise, I'll be forced to make corrections, and that's no good. Okay? Anyway, thank you very much. Now you can ask questions. Tak apalah. You nak apa? Tak payah. Here. You stand, you have a better command of your audience. First lesson in speaking. If I just sit down there, in fact, they're taller than I. You will see my head. You can stand there. Apa? Okay, if that's the case, can we also invite... Nak invite siapa lagi? Oh, Shafizan lah. Okay lah. He's the coordinator. Ada dengan komputer tak pun dia tu.
Tan Sri is just an iPad, Tan Sri.
iPad, okay. Apa questions? Allah. Okay.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Tan Sri, thank you so much for the session. I'm just going to moderate, helping to get the question flows out.
I tell you what, senang aja. Siapa nak question, tanya. Tak payah moderate lah.
Okay, just raise your hand.
You don't need another layer in the question value chain.
Brilliant, Tan Sri. Raise your hand.
Okay. Be brave enough to ask. That's essence lah. Kalau takut tak payah lah. Yeah, your hands are up. Good. Tak apa.
Where do we start now when we see so much disruption in the global supply chain? What areas should Malaysia focus on?
I just mentioned just now, have a comprehensive profile, where are we in which value chain? And are we critical or not in that value chain? If we just 1 or 1,000 players, 100 players, forget it lah kan. But if we are 1 or 2 suppliers, 3 players, which means we are critical. So critical value chain is one thing. Critical entity in the value chain, that's even more important. You cannot deny the criticalness of the value chain. But we want to look at you being a critical component in the value chain. That's the most important, right? A competitive one. One that understands how to preempt changes and expeditiously introduce innovation, blah, blah, blah. So please, don't talk about value chain like value change. Critical value chain is understood. As young people say, understood. Tak payah debate banyak. I also took only 3 minutes to talk about it. But the criticalness of your presence, your company's presence in the value chain, that is what we should be talking about. And the government talking about. Malaysian companies, Malaysian-based companies. Otherwise, people don't want to stay here. Malaysians will go away, right? Nobody's looking after their interests. Yes. Yes. Alah, you tanya I, kenapa tak tanya dia orang? Tanyalah bapak-bapak dan mak-mak yang dalam power sekarang. Okay, that is my, sajalah to spice up my introduction. AP ni is approved permit. In this country, most people think it's cars. Cars only one. In fact, it should have been phased out. 2014. Before it was phased out, I was kicked out of cabinet. Even though I won all 3 seats in parliament and state. Yeah, you know that? I didn't retire. I got a shock of my life. I got a phone call in the morning. Read in my autobiography. You're not in my cabinet, Rafidah. Why? Is it because my performance? No. Is it because my letters to you? I don't write syndicating letters. No. They want a new minister. And I said, they don't want you. They want new prime minister. You nearly lost this country. Blah, 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 blah. End of story. Now, having said that, the AP for cars should have been withdrawn 2014. That was a cabinet decision, And we already put in place the phasing out. By having franchises where joint ventures can be done. Right? But they didn't like it, obviously. Did not prolong. The moment I was dropped from cabinet, the minister who took my place gave thousands of APs out, like his grandfather's property. I know. The officers reported to me, to their horror. So I'm not going to pinpoint, I'm just saying, how policies that were decided not carried through. So the AP cast irritates me to no end. 2014, 2022, 8 years later, still there. Whatever for? Whatever for? If the Malays, Bumi Putras want to sell cars, they can go and get detail redistributorship, right? From Proton, Pro 2, from wherever in the whole world they can get, right? Tak payah AP lah, open it lah. Who wants to sell cars? Take a risk. No, because they want to sell AP, bukan nak jual kereta. So as long as your cronies want to sell AP, so you don't want the AP withdrawn, right? Your crony doesn't know whether the car got 4 wheels or 5 wheels. No, that's a car. But there are APs for so many things. Onions, onion and these vegetables. Oh my God, there are permits everywhere. It's like almost all ministries have got some AP to dish out. And I always wondered, we don't grow onions, let it come in. We don't have chili kering. I mean, things that we really don't have. And then like rice. I was in charge 7 years of the national stockpile. I'm so worried now. Who is monitoring the national stockpile? When I took over, the government said at that time, masih itu kita barulah, said 80% stockpile, national demand. Then we brought it down because it's not difficult to buy negotiated with Thailand, all right? Better to buy cheaper because our cost of producing rice is very high. So we cut it down 65. So national stockpile as it stands now 65% of domestic consumption. I worry. Who's monitoring this? It is stockpile there. The stockpile is a combination of the physical stocks of private and government warehouses, At any one time, every month, we used to have this auditing to know that there is physical stockpile. Tak cukup kita beli because we don't want any disruption, right? I wonder. I just wrote an article lah. People ask me question. I said, I worry. The national stockpile of rice. I just heard today Thailand is having disruptions, and they're not probably able to sell rice. Sorry, you better learn how to eat anything else but rice lah. No, this is the problem, you see. When there is a policy and you don't have make the policy actually stay as a foundation, because that's important for the country, right? So, why have all these permits for innocuous item, garlic lah, onion? What for? Cars, what for? I don't understand. As far as AP forecast, which we were in charge of, it was supposed to be out already, no more 2014. I'm talking about 2022 now. I retired. I mean, not say retired. I was retired off just before the thing was about to be, put into place. So, you ask me the AP question, that's what I mean. Food security, medical security, is anybody monitoring supplies? Not of COVID, not COVID vaccination, other things. Is there some monitoring? To show that should there be some outbreak or whatever, there is enough. You don't go begging bowl, to everybody, please give us some. And then they give you expired ones. And there are many other things. So I worry because ministries are not having their fingers on their pulse. That's all I can say. It worries me when attention diverted. Bahasa Melayu. Having bahasa Melayu does not make it better. Sakit is sakit, pain is pain. Saying pain in bahasa Melayu sakit doesn't make you better. Oh, saying saya bodoh doesn't make you clever. Well, I learned French. I didn't become a French woman. I took French as part of my subject in university. 9 subject economics, 1 French, because I threw out one economic subject. I couldn't understand the lecturer. He was from Finland and smoking 24 hours, so I get migraine. I did French from Form 3. It didn't make me a Frenchie in any way. I was in a convent practically all my life. Convents. Johor Bahru, Kuala Lumpur. They make me Christian. If anything at all, I learned. That's how my English, foundation was there. Now we got topsy-turvy though. The priorities are wrong. I don't know, some perverted viewpoints about things that need to be. I worry about our young people. People of my age, I don't worry anymore, waiting to die. These young grandchildren of mine, not young, like they're old also, adults working. I don't know what's in store for them. Speaking English doesn't make you less Malay, less Chinese, right? Less Indian. You don't speak Tamil doesn't mean you forget your origin. Please lah. Speaking English doesn't make you forget where you came from China, your grandfather kan. Like me, grandparents all come from Sumatra. I've not been there at all to see where they were born. Tak payahlah. I'm a Malaysian citizen. When I go overseas, I sign there, they tulis nationality. I don't say Malay. Malaysian. Correct. You go to London, got immigration. Welcome to my country. He's a Mr. Nathan. Welcome to my country. Because he was born there. He's a British. Who are we to go and laugh at him? See? Doesn't make him less of his nationality as British, make him less as origin, as an Indian origin. No. Nobody, you shouldn't say, oh, I'm British, oh, not Indian. Itu dah melampau-lampau lah tu. Mengada lah. You know what I mean? I'm Malaysian, yeah, happen to be Malay je. But there are so many other Malays, Cape Town Malays, Cambodian Malays, Singapore Malay, Brunei Malays, Indonesian Malay. Please lah. Like Chinese, don't ever go around and say I'm Chinese. Yeah, from where? Tianjin? Hangzhou? Wuhan? If you say Malaysian, finish. Chinese descent, that's all. So why this confusion? It's not necessary. Politics. And when this kind of mentality gets carried into everyday affairs of government, into interactions with private sector, as to determine who owns what in a company, if you're not Muslim like that, that's when the mess comes in. I call it perverted thinking. I don't know what else to call it. Anyway, for all of you who don't know about this, I write every day good morning messages with something to say. Rizal tak dapat ya? Once in a while. Your mom gets it every day. Oh, she sends to you? Good. What do you send to your colleagues? No, because most people ask me permission. Can I send to my friends? I say, sure. I send to your mom because we belong to the same school punya WhatsApp, see? Good morning message, I call it. It's from my heart lah. From my heart. I do it in the morning. I wake up, I say, what I want to talk about today? Okay, something triggers me. Jalan. And sometimes to back it up, I get Confucius saying, Lao Tzu saying, Gandhi saying. It's related to what I was thinking. So, give credibility lah, put it that way. But I don't need that anyway. But still, it is better that you know that it's not me thinking like that only. So many people before me already thought better. Okay, Rizal, your mandate now, bagi kat kawan-kawan. I can give you back copies as your mom. I do it every day. Can you imagine? How many already? Every day, without fail. In fact, if I fail one day, somebody tells me, "Are you all right? Are you okay?" No, because they worry, I might be sick. Actually, not sick. I was on a virtual meeting. I had to prepare my papers. Say, no, I have virtual meeting. So now I'm sending you a late evening message. It doesn't matter lah, morning or evening kan. I just say good day lah. Change good morning to good day. So, enough about me. Any other question? Yes.
Yeah, Assalamualaikum and
Salam.
good afternoon. I think one of the messages that that you were putting across to us, even in the Q&A, was how we need to actually plan ahead for scenarios or crisis scenarios in the future. I mean, if in the backdrop that we're seeing now in the rest of the world, everyone is actually looking at climate change, for instance, as a major crisis for the future.
Right.
We see a disturbing absence of this in Malaysia. But perhaps if you could comment a bit on that. And also, if you have an insight on other areas or gaps where we should actually start thinking or planning about ahead. Thank you.
I have commented on that. In fact, I even had a poetry on it, panjang. The rape of the environment. I just couldn't take it anymore, Instead of talking about gomen, tak gomen, and whoever, I just said rape of the environment. So if you makan chili, pedas lah. You mentioned there lah, put it that way, I did that. I couldn't stand it anymore. Because we're so used, I as a young person, living in an environment where it was beautiful, where there were green trees, there were things that unspoiled, put it that way. But it doesn't mean that you must not have development, but development that has the sustainability in its context. Sustainable development means that what you do now should not deprive the future generation of living a good life for them. You don't detract or you don't take from the future just to be good, to be happy now. And of course, today is rape of the environment. I mean, giving away licenses to just fell trees when in fact, there are very important caveats to even felling trees. It must not be beyond a certain gradient. When there's a hill slope, trees beyond a certain gradient cannot be touched. Once you fell the trees, the whole hill collapses. That is basic. That is basic. Who cares? Who cares? Nobody cares because nobody imposed it. Nowadays, they don't understand. They didn't realize it was there. So, cucu pokok, nenek pokok, habis tebang lah. Grandfather tree, grandchild tree, gone in one fell swoop. And floods come. And don't call it lah God's will lah, please lah. Kononnya, it's God's will. Oh yeah? You drown there, then it's God's will. It was very irritating, right? When people give such stupid excuses for doing something that is wrong. Globally accepted as wrong, right? I don't understand that. People don't understand. There must be a lot of kickbacks there. I don't know. I mean, pristine areas that should be conserved. Oh. I had the misfortune of heading Wanita UMNO one day, decades ago, when we thought we want to be environment, contributing to environment. So, along Jalan Kiara, those days baru buat lah. So, we told the Bandaraya, we want to plant trees along this road. Because botak kan masa tu, I want to plant trees. So, Norde Razak came, the deputy mayor, kan, remember? Came and he was supervising, media came, TV came. Because first time, kita buat kerja macam ni. But 30 years ago, I think. We planted lah many trees along the road. And of course, I don't go monitor every tree lah. I retired. Then one day, Nordin, who retired as a deputy city hall, do you know, Tan Sri, the trees you planted, they have tebang? What? Yeah, not one tree left. These are huge trees already. They cut. And they didn't do anything. Not that they did anything, The trees would have been a good green cover for that area. And then of course lah, next day I asked my late husband, let's go and drive. Yeah, he was right lah. Dah tak ada lah. The trees that we planted as civic conscious women. See? We do, they destroy. Not that they're building anything along the highway tu. Tak ada. But why? Look at Jalan Ampang. You remember Jalan Ampang? The shadiest of roads during my young days. Today Jalan Ampang is jalan tahap lah. Barren of trees, correct? And that's where the floods are happening. So, it's sad. Because it's nothing to do with this very technical environment. In that, no, it is basic common sense. But then they say common sense is a very scarce resource kan. So susah lah. Yeah, anything else? Yeah, sila.
Hi. So, Tan Sri, my question is,
This is sloping. Yes, thank you.
So, Tan Sri, okay, my question is there an all of nation approach to?
What?
Is there an all of nation approach?
What is all of nation approach? National approach lah. Apa banyak-banyak sih?
Okay, is there a national approach that is capitalistic in nature and yet equitable in all levels of our society?
Let me put it this way. I am not into this demarcation of capitalism, socialism, blah, blah, blah. Or right wing, left wing, center right, center left. I mean, it becomes so decimated that people are not even aware what they're doing. Just do what is right lah. If something should be left to the private sector, they're not going to be very charitable about it, right? They're going to do it business-like. So you can call it capitalist. Yeah, but if you are not able as a government to do business, which you're not, don't bother lah. You don't set up JLPs to do business. I must say, on record, I was given by Tun Hussein on the post of Minister of Public Enterprise for 7 years, okay? First day at the job, I got the briefing. I said, oh my God, 900 over company. If I'm not mistaken, 949 companies owned by the government, federal and state level, directly or vicariously, ranging from housing, whatever, to import of wigs, red, blonde wigs, you name it, running coffee shops, operating cinemas. And I said to my Secretary General, okay, while we run the ministry and that things move, I'm going to close down all this. So we spend a lot of time studying which ones. Internally, tak ada consultant. Because we know what's happening. The consultant, we have to ask questions from us anyway. So we do. And then I sent a nice report to Tun Hussein on. And I said, there's an executive summary. As in essence, we need to close down X number. We need to offer a number to people who want to buy. Lots of liabilities, $1 pun ambil lah kan. And close down. Some revert back to the state government. Why should we be controlling? And some we take back, put in whatever lah. So a lot of structure. Hussein on read the executive summary and said, Rafidah, what you're doing is good. I will support you fully. Wow, that's all. Thank you, sir. I went back, called my Secretary General. I said, lah, he passed away. This is what Hussein On said. So we carried on. And you know what happened? The ministry was closed. There were no more public enterprises to manage. I got transferred to MITI. And the late Napsiah became Minister for Entrepreneur Development. They changed it. No more public enterprise to talk about. Because I went to one company and there was the manager who had a nice big room with a fridge. Huh? Hi Minister, I got no fridge in my room. Apa you jaga kecil outfit apa ni? I mean, and that was replicated all over. So that's where government funds, public fund, no government got no money. Public funds went into. Close down. Voluntary liquidation. Whatever process lah. We call legal kan. Kita ada Attorney General punya chambers punya orang. They advise lah what to do legally. Close down the ministry. I would say I lost my job lah kan. No lah. The government saw fit to move me to MITI. So you see, we had that ministry. Because I said the government has no business doing business. That was my very strong in. No government should be doing business or nominate anyone to do business. Govern. Create the environment for others to do business. And then they pay tax. And then you can help the people borrow tax. Ini ada orang kata, oh, the foundation it's not government fund. It's public fund. Look at the guy who the contractor who give you the money, got his profit and all that from public. Kan? Government no money, you know. If people stop paying taxes and nobody collects any duties or whatnot, government go no pay. To pay. No money to pay. I'm just quoting Margaret Thatcher. No government has any money. The government doesn't create money. It's money derived from the rakyat. You who earn salaries. I who earn some allowances, pittance, tapi bayar tax juga. Tycoons, through their hard work, become millionaires, billionaires. Not even affiliated to anybody, but hard work. You know, father's company over those days. They pay tax. Those who curi-curi don't pay tax. Kan? Sorry, now you get me into this already. National approach, okay? Okay, anyone? Any more? Yes, Rizal. They're creating every day. Some born triplets, twins also. Some not married, they just produce babies. I closed down. Okay, I closed it down. The ministry closed down. Then some smart Alex say, "Ayo, what stupid woman closed down all this? This is political support, man." And they created it all again. I didn't need that kind of political support. I don't need. My God. To me, if I do things right, my kawasan will vote me in. I was there 39 years as MP continuously, tak payah campaign. Because I know my job as an MP, you know. Development, whatever that is necessary. No money, no payoff, no hampers, no basket. Oh my God. No such rubbish. And they vote in because they know they're reliable, kan? Government to reliable. So that's a reward you get. So, I'm sad. I've lost count of the new GLCs today. Allah Tuhanku. The acronyms, you realize? From A to Z. And they pay these people like nobody's business. I'm not jealous, you know. No. I'm just saying. What are they doing? Are they twiddling thumbs and other things that they can twiddle? We don't see results. No, it is something that you have to think about seriously. When government goes haywire like that, then we suffer, the public, the social society, right? In other words, there's a misallocation and misdirection of public funds, which came from us anyway. Don't forget that, you know. Unless you're avoiding taxes, I don't know lah, but I don't think so. So if you're paying taxes in what way or another, even if it's just cukai tanah, you know, land tax, a quit rent, that is a tax. Your road tax is a tax. Your excise duty that you pay for imports is a tax, right? Not excise duty for import, I mean import duty, excise duty for local. Macam-macam ni duty, collect. This is your money that they're spending. We have to have a say in it, you know, we have to have guidance on the best way to use public funds. We put trust in these people. I'm not naming names, I'm just saying that when you have a government, then straight away you're putting public trust in them to handle public governance, handle public funds, public affairs, not private affairs, okay? We are always looking at private affairs. I'm talking about public affairs. Private affairs punya pasal lah. Tu yang cakap Melayu lah. I'm not interested in people's private affairs. I'm interested in what happens to the public. My children, my grandchildren now, and I worry. Look at them and say, oh my God, these kids ni kat universiti ni ada job tak besok? Ada tak job? I don't know. You worry? Don't you worry about it?
Yeah.
Yeah. You may be doing okay, but your children by the time in 10 years' time, for all you know, there may be restrictions here and there, your color, not the right color. Right? Things like that. We don't know. If the wrong people come in, siap lah you. Darker than I, tak boleh. We don't know, we don't know. These are unforeseeable things. Because it can evolve within 24 hours. Right? You have moral police all over the place. Taliban kan? Already now. Even security guard pun dah pandai nak determine whether your skirt is long or not. What is this?
Yeah.
It worries me to death. Okay? As a retiree. Okay, last question. I know we can go on and on.
Tan Sri,
Where are you?
I'm here.
You nak tanya?
Yeah.
Okay.
Tan Sri, earlier you mentioned about you've done your role in making Malaysia as a
I did not say that. Bila pula I cakap?
Ada tadi. No. Kita we want to become the central or the hub for
Don't
Southeast
put
Asia.
words in my mouth. I never said I made Malaysia. Oh my God. I am not that arrogant. Tak pernah
Tan Sri, I'm sorry,
cakap.
Tan Sri, sorry.
You imagine je ni. Maybe you so much in praise of me.
Sorry, Tan Sri. Okay, we wanted to become the hub, the regional hub,
Yeah.
right? Regional hub.
Regional hub for good things,
For good things.
Not
Yes,
for
of
human
course, of course.
trafficking. Not for those places that I perform in the dark. Bukan tu. Itu hub juga.
Okay, my main question is
Habab.
what's going to happen in the next 2 years? Can you foresee? I know you're
I
worried.
can't. I don't know. I might be dead tomorrow. So why? What happens today, tomorrow, next 2 years is up to all of you. You all have the votes. Even if you don't have the votes, you have the circles of influence that you have. Just think about it. Everybody has a circle of influence. One person's immediate circle of influence is the family. You convince your family of 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 or whatever, and each one have their own circle of influence, starting from you, a few hundred can be shaped in terms of thinking the right way. Correct or not? Janganlah inbreeding, talking among 3 people, WhatsApp itu juga won't go anywhere. Expand your horizon. Macam tu. You can think about it. That's how you create awareness of what changes need to be done, how to change things. Unless you're happy the way things are, fine. Fine, I leave it to you. All of you. If you're happy with what we have, Alhamdulillah. What can I say? I'm a retiree. 14 years already. Think about it. Ask yourselves. And then ask the people to your left and right. And those in your circles of influence. If 99% says we are not happy, then you know things must change. Correct? And things must change because they need to be changed. Not because we love change. There must be cogent reasons why we need to change, right? Not because I don't like your face, because I cannot speak Melayu. No, that's not it. You cannot speak English. That's not it. Not the trivialities. It's core considerations. I mean, I'm not talking like this after retirement. I've been talking like this since I was young. I guess that's why I was made senator at the age 30 by Tor Razak. He saw me and listened to me talking like this. I didn't care who he was there. Tokoh Abdul Rahman ke, tak kisah. I talk like this. And he suddenly realized, here is he's one person, young person, that I think I can put there, let her talk. I got a shock of my life. Nobody told me. He didn't tell me. You know, things like that. Those days, nak lobby, tak pernah teringat. I just got a phone call from the chairman of the selection committee of the Senate. Tahniah. Ini yang berhormat Rafidah kah? Bukan, ni Rafidah tapi bukan yang berhormat. Yang berhormat dah. Ni Abu Kamzah. Yang berhormat dah. Tak, saya tak yang berhormat dah. Dah confirm Senate. That's how we get appointed. Hari ni pergi makan, pergi jilat. Apa yang boleh dijilat nak dapat senator. Correct? Dulu that's how I became senator, you know. Sheepishly going to parliament. What the hell am I going to do now? I don't know. Then I realized so much to do, man. The whole country was my constituency. Habis cerita. Everybody invited lah. Those days mana ada young girl kan, the 30 years old. Kejap sana, kejap sini. Oh, yang berhormat senator. I didn't get it into my head lah. I just say, I bekerja. Because I was a lecturer university. So, what I'm trying to say is that you have your core values that you maintain lifelong. But they must be good values lah. You know, maintain them lifelong so that you can fight for whatever is right, just and fair, and not be influenced by any externalities, you know, that make you veer off. Kalau benda ni biru, just because I want to favor you and you say it's green, I also say it's green. I'm stupid lah kan? I stick like it's blue. How can you deny it's blue? That's my principle. Okay? If you take offense by what I say, well, too bad. I didn't mean to offend. I was just speaking my mind. It's very easy to flatter, no? Bagus. Result, bagus. You praise me sky high. Good. I stop you kan? Nak hidup. Yeah, but I stop you. Yeah. You see, other people would have been, seronok ya. Think that I'm not there pun dia masuk karang juga. Lagi. Today with so many doctors. Aku kata bila pula dia ni buat thesis. Rupanya doktor beli ada ya. And I've got 7 honorary doctorates, 2 from America. Cannot be used. But I have a professorship that can be used. I am an adjunct professor. My letter of appointment says you are now allowed to use the word professor kat depan tu. Malu. Malu. Tak pakai, tak pernah. I'm still associate professor, UUM, College of Business. Ni semua ni kita punya ni lah. Within my realm lah, put it that way, you know, critical value chain, blah, 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 blah. Tak mau malu, tak payahlah. It's me that's important, right? Not the trimmings. The doctor, the Tan Sri, some people karah habis, Tan Sri Dato Peluka. Dah lah tu. I got title from 7 states, all different. Tolonglah. Lama-lama you forget my name. I stop people, you know, who try to recite my titles when introducing me. I may be kurang ajar lah, but I have to tell them, look, priorities. Okay. But then many people like it. Kan? Okay. Habis. Thank you so much. That was a very nice session. Now, do I get down or is there something that I need to do up here? Tak ada?
Yes. Could you remain on stage, Yang Bahaya, please? I would like to call upon Mr. Nordin. Yeah. And Mr. Rizal, please.
Ada. Ada sikit. Oh, okay. Tak banyak, kadang-kadang yang tak banyak tu yang berharga.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Nordin, Mr. Rizal, and thank you, Tan. all the speakers to join on stage to take a picture for the photography as well. You can join. Yeah. You can do.
Finding information on companies can be painfully manual. Discovering how they are connected to other entities and persons drags out the process even further. With Connections Plus, Scout Asia makes it possible for you to do both instantly, saving you and your team precious time. Here is a quick look at 4 of our features. Let's start at our search bar. You can look up any person or company, and if their record is found in the database you select, you can go on to generate one of our maps or reports. Let's try our first feature, the radial map. A radial map shows you past and present, direct and indirect connections related to one entity or person. If you need further insights into a company's board and all shareholders, just right-click to download an entity profile report. Any entities or persons in red tells you they've undergone regulatory investigation. To get more details, simply download a red list report. And finally, the interconnection map. If you'd like to unwrap connections between 2 or more specific entities, the interconnection map will show you past and present connections. To see more features, please reach out to us.